Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Live. As we sadly go over what was another miserable match day for Rangers, this podcast proudly sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde View, Affle Industrial Solutions and CSD Air Conditioning, not Head and Shoulders, which you might think by our lovely panel this evening. Let's just get straight into it. Amrit, take the floor, please. Your thoughts on yesterday's performance.
Hi, Stevie. Yeah, so I think the whole scenario of what unfolded yesterday needs to be taken in two fragments, in my opinion. One, the officiating, and on the other side, the performance of the players. And I think if we concentrate too much on the officiating, whilst it's absolutely pertinent and it needs to be a serious consideration, I'm sure we'll unpack that throughout the course of the evening. But the standard of the players that we have are simply just not good enough. Celtic are not a good team. Let's make no bones about it. They are not a good team. But on yesterday's performance, unfortunately, they are still better than us. And we've got a lot of work to do. I felt that Danny Roll had perhaps unlocked something in a lot of these players over the last couple of games. I wasn't naive to think that it was going to be all done and dusted and we'd see a magical transformation. Of course not. I knew it would take time. But yesterday proves to me that a lot of these guys have a huge amount of work to do just to get up to an acceptable standard. I think the remaining 10 players that were on the pitch did as best as they could with a very difficult set of circumstances. I think they ran themselves into the ground, and the fact that they took Celtic to extra time is commendable. But in so many areas of the game, we are simply not good enough. The start wasn't good enough. We looked so miles off it. It was embarrassing at times. We were ragdolled. We knew what we were expecting, Stevie. We know what's going to happen with Celtic players because it's been happening for years. They come out the blocks flying. So we were prepared, but we went into it as if we were blind, as if we didn't know what was going to happen. And we just were not focused. We were not structured. All the discipline, all the compactness, all the processes and organisation that we had against Kilmarnock and Hibs went out the window. And we looked again like 11 players who had never played together. And that was really, really discouraging. So that would be my opening gambit, Stevie.
Davey?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say some similar stuff to what Amrit's just said, actually. Undoubtedly, we'll talk about the officiating later on, but I genuinely think we need to park that till later on. Because the long and the short of it for me is that Rangers do not have the required quality in the team in the areas that really needs it most, which is right up the centre of it. We talked about the spine in the summer, didn't we? Remember, we talked about what we needed in the summer. We said we needed reliable, aggressive leaders at centre-back. We still don't have them. We said we needed help for Raskin and Diamandi in the middle. We needed a six that could control the game. We didn't get one. And we said we needed better than Dessers up front. And what we've done is we've got rid of the goals in the team from last year and we've replaced it with forwards who basically don't score very often and who don't affect the play very much and who miss chances when they come along. And when you put all that together, along with, in my view, a first half that showed a team that still don't believe that they can actually win games like this, then I think what you've got is a recipe for a team that will lose big games. Yes, we can talk about the officiating and we will talk about the officiating, but I think yesterday, our recruitment, with all the loans at the back and the money wasted up front, our recruitment came home to roost and the first trophy of the season went up in smoke because of it.
Kenny, good evening, mate. Your thoughts, please.
Saddest thing for me was I thought Celtic wanted it more than our players. That was abundantly clear from the get-go, I thought. Our leadership group, my son's been saying this to me for quite a while. Then never a week goes by where one of our leadership group doesn't sell a goal. Whether it's Butland, whether it's Suter, whether it's Tavernier, it's every single week. That's the leaders in our team. We lack that spine, as Davey said. Three international centre halves on the pitch for us yesterday, ragdolled about the place by two kids. A midfield that couldn't get into the game. A 21-year-old £10 million project missing glorious opportunities, and Yeah, I can honestly say the biggest thing for me, and we all know that the officiating is scandalous. We do know that, but the biggest thing for me is after the game, I took to the chat and I said this, that actually our issues are much bigger than just one game here. We have to look at our recruitment year on year. We're getting worse. It's actually getting worse, and the idea that Rangers as a project has come back and bit Kevin Thirlwell right in the backside here, because we looked like deer in the headlights. Some of those players yesterday, they genuinely froze from the get-go. They had no idea what it was going to be like, and they were warned. James Tavernier had said to them in the press conference leading up to the game that some of these players will have no idea how frenzied and frantic this game is going to be. Well, they didn't cope with that at all. They came into the game in the second half, but commitment, effort, guts, all that kind of stuff is the least that we expect. They go down fighting, and they did go down fighting, to be fair to them. Same old, mate. We've been sitting watching this for years, 3 years now, of every single time a big game comes around, Rangers don't win it.
Okay, so a few truths from me. First of all, it's a Rangers podcast, so we're not going to sit here and talk about the opposition, but what I will say is they thoroughly deserve to win. They were by far the better side. They smacked Rangers about the whole pitch, and it's painful to say it, but it's true. Just completely more up for it. I think somebody said it, more up for it, more quality, and they scored 3, and it probably could have been 8. So that's the reality of the situation yesterday for me. Did the refereeing influence it? It had an impact, and we'll talk about that, but it wasn't the overwhelming factor, because Celtic probably still would have won that game regardless. The way it was unfolding, Rangers were lucky to go in at halftime 1-0. And even then, they had chances themselves. It could have been 5-2 at halftime. It felt like it was end to end. So Rangers miles off it, and that was the most disappointing thing for me. I think we went into it thinking we would at least have some hope. We would at least have some encouragement and some positivity. And genuinely, we started off with Nasajiga, who got a ball on the right-hand side and just booted it for inexplicable reasons right high up and out the pitch. And I seen Raskin and Tavernier looking at him and trying to calm him down. And then all of a sudden, that nervousness, that panic, that harassed look about the team just crept in. And after 15 minutes, when Celtic scored and it became offside, that was the time for Danny Rule then maybe to change it. And I understand why he wouldn't, and why he maybe doesn't see the patterns that we've already seen. But it was almost writing on the wall. Individual players are miles off it. I think yesterday potentially put a dagger into the heart of quite a few of them who we maybe thought might be good enough. I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not sure they have the heart, the desire. And to be quite honest with you, recruitment is solely to blame here. And I thought about it earlier on, and we kind of spoke about it. We've downgraded massively in every position, not only from last season, but the year before, but the year before, but the year before that. Everybody knew Barisic was on his way out for quite a while, and we've replaced him with gradually worse players, starting with, the likes of Jeffy, now Meg Homa. Jeffy's an upgrade on Meg Homa. And none of them are anywhere near Barisic. We went from John Lundstrom not being good enough to Joe Rothwell being miles behind John Lundstrom. We went from Dessers up front not being good enough to Chermiti, who's miles away from it. We just have downgraded in every single bit of the pitch, and I thought it was striking yesterday. I thought we were weak. I thought we were bullied. I thought we were intimidated, which is the worst possible thing. A Rangers team that looked scared, it looked harassed, it looked short of absolutely everything. And yeah, listen, we still created chances and we still could have scored goals. Honestly, if it wasn't for Jack Butland, it really could have been 6, 7, 8, whatever. And we've said that already this season. Defensively, awful. Midfield, I'm struggling to understand where they were because they were just overloaded. Up front, powder puff. It's the same old story, and it's not going to get any better. And that's where I am with it. We will win some games, and we will lose some games, and that's exactly how it'll go until January, until we try somehow to fix this. And I'm not sure we can. Not in one window. I'm not sure we'll get enough in January. It's just there's so many questions, and we're going to keep going through this. So to talk about yesterday, now that we've all had our kind of say on it, 3-4-3, Kenny, did Danny Rowe get that right? For me, he had to do it because we had to play that way because it's the only thing that we've kind of looked semi-decent with. I understand how he did it, but I would have changed it quite quickly because you could see that the 3 became a 5 and we were just penned in and we had to try and get out. No out ball really haunted us as well because there was no pace, there was nothing up top. So every time it went up there was nothing to do. Did he make the right decision sticking with that? Hindsight's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, hindsight. Yeah, obviously, no, he should have changed it earlier than he did. But again, this is one of these things, Stevie. That how many times have we watched this happen in this particular fixture where we don't get started? We just don't start the game in the proper manner. And formations are all very good and well, but as you say, when you've got Giga lumping a ball and you can't string 2 passes together, formations don't really matter. But no, I must admit, I thought he would go to 4 at the back for yesterday. I did think he would, but I wasn't overly surprised that he didn't because he'd won his last 2 games with a 3-4-3. However, I thought that it played right into Celtic's midfield hands instantly. I thought it was just clear as day. They got a grip from the very first minute or 2 where we didn't really get a kick of the ball for about 4 minutes, something like that. And you're like, well, they've set their marker down right away. And no, but again, it's for me, I don't think it mattered what you did yesterday. I thought a lot of those players froze. So a change of formation might have helped. The 4-3-2 in the second half clearly did help them. It gave them a bit of a structure to get out. They could pass their way through the middle, I thought, a lot easier. So perhaps changing it to a 4-3-3 early than they did might have worked, but I'm not necessarily sure because I thought the first half, there was just a tone to it that we weren't really in it very much. Although, as you say, we managed to create a couple of chances. But again, I don't know, mate. Hindsight, as you say, is a wonderful thing. But for me, I would have played a 4-3-3 yesterday. I would have done. However, I wasn't surprised.
Davey, why were we so nervous? Why were we so bullied? Why were we so intimidated by a Celtic team that had been in crisis all week and have been poor? Why didn't we fancy it? Why weren't we up for it? These are all, I think, relevant accusations that we can say as a fan base, looking at it at games, watching on wherever we were seeing the game. We looked like rabbits in headlights. Why?
I genuinely wish I could answer that. I do think that right from the start, it looked as if Celtic had more belief about them. They looked as if they were there to get into us, if you know what I mean. There's something about Rangers shots that bring it out in them, and I don't think there's something about Celtic shots that bring it out in us, if that makes sense. I don't think we've got players that don't like them. I think they've got players that don't like us. And I think that actually makes a bit of a difference in games like this. I think to Kenny's point a little bit, I was expecting us to go with two up front yesterday. I don't think we've got a centre forward that can lead the line by themselves. I think all 3 of the forwards we've got need somebody beside them. I think they all need a partner. I don't think we've got a lone striker to pick from. So I was actually expecting to see a 3-5-2 yesterday with an extra midfield player and two strikers. I know why Rowe went 3-4-3 because it worked for him twice, but I do think that it doesn't matter if it's Danilo and Asgard, whoever it is that's the 2 wide guys and the 3 don't get close enough to the centre forward. The centre forward loses the ball and then you end up with 3 players in front of the ball and you're not affecting the game. I think actually the way the first half worked out, we were playing until Lasker got sent off, we were playing 5 at the back, 2 in midfield and 3 up front because we kept losing the ball. The 3 up front were out the game. The 2 fullbacks went backward, and we just ended up giving up the midfield, which is where these games are won and lost. And I think if you're old enough to remember us actually winning these games on a regular basis, it was when we had a midfield better than them. And I think that until we've got that again, we will struggle in these games. But why we started the way we did, I have no idea. Other than I just don't know if we actually believed that we're good enough, and I don't know whether we don't like them enough. And those 2 things we need to put right.
Amrit, despite all the doom and gloom, and I generally thought we were extremely poor in the first half, you cannot miss those chances. Chermiti, 20 minutes, and I think there's a 2-minute gap between Kenny putting Celtic in the lead and him missing that. It's a great ball. I think Diamande plays it across, and he just his foot is square. He doesn't open it. He could have guided that in. He could have put it anywhere. He doesn't. He misses a chance from a great ball in by Tab at the back post. He just doesn't quite get there. Nico Raskins put 1-1, a lovely reverse ball by Danilo through. And I don't actually know what he's trying to do. Lift it, go across the keeper. He just put it at him. It's a lack of composure. That's the positives for us. That even in such what I thought was such a chaotic performance by us, such a panic performance by us. Somebody said spooked, and that's a real way to put it. But it's almost like we were spooked. First half, we did create 2 or 3 really good opportunities, and you've got to take them, and that's the difference. If Chermiti takes that, then you maybe settle down, because it felt like you needed to settle down. And if you watch it back, when Celtic actually did score that offside goal, there was 2 or 3 minutes where you thought it actually is beginning to calm down a bit. But the positives are missing or creating the chances, neglected them maybe a wee bit by missing them, but at least there was that on the first half.
Yeah, I mean, these chances are very, very critical in games of this magnitude, Stevie. There's no doubt about it. You don't get a lot of chances, and you must capitalise when you do. Lovely ball from Dio into Chermiti. Good movement from the young lad, no doubt. But you never felt that in that position he's scoring. You know, he's a Rangers number 9 in the 6-yard box. He should be bursting the back of that net. I don't care if it's left foot, right foot, ball came too quick, couldn't quite. I don't care. Think of the guys that have worn that 9 jersey. Who's worn it? Koiste, Boyde, Marco Negri, Dado Perzo, Jelavic. I mean, look at all these guys. If they're in that position, they are ragdolling that ball into the net every single time. There's only one place that ball's going. But with Chermiti, it's not. And then at the back stick again, he's got to want it more. He's got to fight. He sort of half-arses it. He's in the 6-yard box. Anything, and you're getting a shot on target. But he just didn't have that fire inside of him, I felt, to say, I'm getting that ball. That composure, that desire to want to get it in front of the defender. And the Raskin one, again, lovely ball from Dio. That little reverse pass, blind pass with the left foot, lovely weighted. Raskin's in a great position. But again, that composure, like you said, and the guys were saying earlier on, does he have the belief that he can really score that opportunity? I don't think he does. There's maybe an argument for squaring the ball as well, potentially, but I think a player of his quality in that position should be working the goalkeeper. I don't think Schmeichel's made a great save there. All Schmeichel's really done is done the big starfish that his dad used to do, make himself big, and in some respects he's lucked out that one of his limbs has managed to stop the ball. It's not as if he's reacted to that save with his reflexes and saved it and dived to one side. So for me, Raskin's really got to do a lot better. But we did create chances, but we're just not clinical enough. And like you said earlier on, Dessers was said he wasn't good enough. But I think if the big man was there, he would have scored one of those chances against Chermiti that Chermiti had. And then it changes the entire landscape of the game. You get that goal, all of a sudden you build that belief and you can build on it. And then that affects their positivity as well, because all of a sudden Celtic are maybe thinking, okay, we don't want to be as explorative in our play as we have been up to this point, because we know there is a danger. We know that Rangers are clinical if they get a chance, because we didn't have the outball, like you said earlier on, Stevie. So their fullbacks could push up because they know we didn't have a gas man or a Mikey Moore that we could give the ball to and take it for a run and cause them problems. If we score, all of a sudden they're a bit more reluctant, and we didn't take advantage of that opportunity when it presented itself.
We certainly didn't. I'm going to leave the officiating for now. Obviously, there's huge moments in the first half. Cornelius, Asgard, Trusty are all worth talking about, and we will. We'll also talk about Ralston. We'll talk about the other officiating moments. I'm going to do that all at once. positives are second half. We go in 1-0 and Celtic have chances. They hit the bar, they miss chances. I think they went 1-on-1. I think Kenny, maybe went 1-on-1. Somebody went 1-on-1. Butland managed to. Suter poked it back and Butland managed to save. And there was quite a lot going on. In the middle of that, Rangers started to grind. They started to work. Kenny, it went 4-3-2. We dug in. And by the way, controversial or not, I know everybody moans about him. I thought Tav was terrific. Started driving the team on, started putting himself about in midfield. He's 34, by the way. We know his legs are done. We know Tav's best days are behind him. But see, when we needed somebody in there to properly drive the team on, I started to pick up that he was the one doing that. We didn't really create much, but there was a determination, there was a grit, there was long throws. We were causing stuff. And we were just pressing and pressing. And then Mikey Moore comes on, and I thought he was great. Added energy, added passion, and he put a great ball through for Gassama, and he just can't get the shot away in time. And then we're panicking him. We get the penalty, and that all comes, by the way, off of 20 minutes where Rangers with 10 men at 4. I think they went 4-2-3. I thought they were great. I thought they burst their arses, and I thought they gave it absolutely everything. Unfortunately, down to 10 men, the damage was probably done. But see, for that moment and for that period of the game, the fans can be absolutely proud of the team and the effort they gave. And they fully deserved to get back into it. And they were always going to ride their luck, by the way. At 10 men, trying to get back in the game, you're going to give up chances. You're going to rely on your goalie. You're going to rely on people not taking chances. I genuinely thought we were absolutely magnificent for that period with 10 men up against the Celtic team who were playing that well. Yeah, boys, I'll ask you all the same question, but Kenny first. I genuinely thought we can be really proud of the way that the team got back in it. Heart, desire, everything we wanted.
Absolutely. And hats off to Danny Rule for actually just going balls out and going for it and trying to get into the game, because they could have just sat in and try to hit on the counter, so to speak. But yeah, you're right. But James Tavernier will get no criticism off of me this week. I thought he was excellent yesterday. There's others that they do deserve plenty of criticism, but he isn't one of them. That was the difference for me when he made the changes, that he brought ball carriers on, and Mikey Moore and Gassama both carried the ball really well yesterday. Mikey Moore in particular, I thought was excellent. I thought he'd come on and maybe the point to prove, that he's done all right in the last couple of games he's come on, and maybe a wee bit disappointed not to start yesterday. And perhaps with hindsight, he might well have, or he probably should have started, in my opinion. But it's difficult to overly praise him for heart and commitment, because I expect that anyway. But I do know what you mean, that there was a real drive to get into the game. I thought Nico Raskin and Mo Diamandi also really drove and dug in the middle of the park when they were a man down. They really fought like hell to get themselves into the game. The issues are lying elsewhere, mate. But yeah, I was absolutely, genuinely delighted and proud of them in the second half. I thought they did really well to get themselves into the tie. The only thing I would say, and I'm jumping away forward here, I actually felt we really are going to have to win this in 90 minutes. There is no way we're going to survive extra time, and we know what happened. But that was my kind of feeling at the time, that once we'd got ourselves into the game, I thought we really needed to nick another one.
Yeah, Davey, thoughts on the second spell and getting their second half and getting themselves back into the game?
Pretty similar to Kenny, really. I think that I'll echo the Tavernier praise, because I think he gets plenty of criticism when he's a poor game. I thought he was over the course of the game yesterday, he was by far the best Rangers player in the park. I thought he was really good in midfield, actually, when he went into midfield in the second half. I think his future at Ibrox is the right side of centre back, but maybe we'll talk about that another time. Mikey Moore was terrific, and a real hindsight, as you keep talking about, I wish we had played him instead of Asgard as the other player in the front three, because he done well at Hibs as well, Moore, in that kind of role. we didn't create that much, but we had the ball in the Celtic penalty area a lot. I was kind of disappointed a little bit in the number of sort of throw-ins and corners and stuff that Celtic defence won the ball in the air. Suter was up, and I don't think he went ahead on the opposition box all the time. He was up there. We made Scales and Trusty look like Terry Butcher and Richard Gough back there at times. But we had chances again. But it was more about effort, I think, and more about a bit of fight than it was anything else, which I think, as Kenny's alluding to, is kind of a minimum requirement. It's kind of hard to get overexcited about a team showing fight and desire. But once it went to extra time, we were done. And I think maybe something else to mention is that Raskin and Diamandi are our two best midfield players, best central midfield players, and for different reasons they both had to go off yesterday. And I thought it was strange that we only had one midfield player on the bench. I think it was 4 wingers we had on the bench, which seemed really overkill. I don't really understand why either Cameron or Bajrami wasn't an option that we wanted to put there just in case. Because I think as time went on, we were putting players in the middle of the park that just weren't suited to be in there.
Yeah, it's that old hindsight thing. I don't think the bench was right, but Leo Cameron is a strange one. Maybe talk about that towards the end. Amrit, your thoughts on the second half echo most of what we've said, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there has to be credit where credit's due. The guys did the very best that they possibly could. They worked really, really hard. There were 10 men in the face of adversity. They still plugged on. They went. They tried to create. They tried to be positive. James Tavernier, for me, he picked up that ball for that penalty. There was no doubt he was the one that was going to take it. And let's remember, his current penalty scoring record is not great. So for captain to pick that ball up and say, I'm taking it, takes a lot of backbone. And you expect that from your captain, of course you do. But given the amount of criticism he gets, that's a tough choice for him. And he's picked it up and he's taken it and he's buried it. And if he misses that, he almost writes his own death warrant with the Rangers fans. So that took a lot of guts, a lot of steel, a lot of leadership, which I think are all the qualities you want in a captain. So fair play to James Tavernier. I think that was a wonderful penalty under really difficult circumstances. But as far as the second half goes, you knew when it went to extra time that the only opportunity we had to win that game is if we could navigate the next 30 minutes of extra time and get to penalties. That was going to be our only saving grace, because you could see the legs were gone. The guys were absolutely done in. They'd given everything. They really had. And whilst the quality isn't there, I can't question the commitment of the guys that were on the park. I truly believe that they did try their best in that second period. And James Tavernier, well, good on you, son, because that was a big, big strike, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it goes to extra time, and like you guys say, I just felt, Amrit, that we were kind of done. I thought we were dead on our feet, and you can understand that. And then he's having to put players, at one point, I think it was Moore and Tavernier in midfield. And, you know, with 10 men, it's just not good enough. Celtic score a second, and it's so disappointing. And here's where it gets tricky for me, because no natural midfielder in there. They were lining up at the edge of the box, and McGregor's got all the space in the world. John Suter ducks out the way. I'm sure he's trying to head it up and over, but he makes a total arse of it. And Jack Butland has a moment, and it's a poor goal from us. Just like the third one was a poor goal, and by that time it's nailing the coffin. And the problem is with that is Rangers still have a glaring opportunity. Amrit, I'll try and spit that out. Rangers have a clear opportunity. It comes in the 10th minute of the first period, extra time at 2-1, and Gassama goes clean through. And you know what the real issue is? I've got no belief that he's going to score when he goes through. And he just doesn't open his body, he doesn't do anything. But then again, you know, he was clean through, didn't get the shot away. It's like the fourth clear-cut opportunity that we've created, and it was wonderfully done. A great pass in behind. I think it was Majowski, possibly. Haven't seen it again. Slides a great ball in. You've got to take that. And then at 2 each, you know, does it reunite us? Do we suddenly find that spring, that bit of energy? You never know, because Celtic, you know, well living are strong. But you've got to take that chance.
These are the tiny variables, aren't they, Kenny? These moments, these inches that we talk about all over the park in every game. And you know, if Gasma scores that, but it seemed as if the ball was a wee bit under his feet. I'm not sure, maybe because he was tired and his legs were heavy. But then he hasn't played the 90 odd minutes that everybody else has either. So you'd think that he had more in his tank, but he just didn't really display that. The goal, the Callum McGregor goal against Butland, a lot of people have said to me that they think that Butland was at fault for that. It was a very similar goal that Chermiti scored against Kilmarnock last week, wasn't it? With that little bit of movement in the air, seemed like it was right down his throat. The difference with that one, though, was that the keeper, the Kilmarnock keeper, had a clear view, a clear sight of the ball as it was coming towards him, and Butland didn't have that luxury. Like you say, John Suter was in front of him. He's ducked, he's jumped, he's sort of tried to move. Butland's seen it very late, and it's gone in. But like you said earlier on, without Jack Butland, it could have been 5, 6, 7, 8. You could have wrote a number on a bit of paper, and it could have been that. So I don't think that we can blame Jack Butland, because for me, he has been our most consistent player all season, without a shadow of a doubt. But these small chances are huge parts of a game, and they have a massive impact and influence on how the game develops. And when we're not taking them, you can't expect any other outcome than the one we got.
Yeah, here comes the exciting bit. Officiating. We've waited to discuss it. I was at the game yesterday. I'd done the match day vlog. Called it as honestly as I could see it. I didn't understand certain things. So we'll discuss them probably in order as I remember them. Hopefully I won't miss any. Cornelius tackle, 23rd minute. Kenny, your thoughts on that? He's went in. I think it's a bit of a lunge. I think he's very lucky, right? And he's very lucky because he keeps his foot down and the contact is really low, which is why it's probably a deserved yellow. On any other day, see if he gets a red there, you understand why. I don't think it's a red, but I grew up in the 90s. See, in this day and age, you lunge in like that, I think it's asking questions. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yep, I think it's a red. And I do. I genuinely think it's a red card. There's at one point, Stevie, he is lunging straight-legged right at that boy's ankle, and he connects with both ankles. It's one of those that it's an amber card, if you know what I mean. It's between a yellow and a red. So if he had shown him a red card, trust me, there's no way VAR would intervene. And VAR did look at that and didn't intervene. And I think it's because it's one of them. It is right on the borderline. But for me personally, I would always put the boot in the other foot. If that's one of their players doing that to one of our players, I'm wanting them off the pitch. So it's a red card for me, mate.
Yeah, totally fair. I think it is one of those ones. It is borderline. Davey, your thoughts?
To be honest, at the time, I just thought he's fouled him. It's a yellow card. Move on. It was because I hadn't seen it again. I don't have Premier Sports and stuff. I looked up YouTube last night when I got in and I watched Premier Sports highlights, and it wasn't even on it. It wasn't on it. And usually they show all the controversial incidents. So I was of the impression that it can't have been that bad. I actually saw it for the first time on STV News tonight. It's the first time I've actually seen the tackle. And I tend to think that if he had been given the red, VAR wouldn't have overturned it. I think if he had been 3 or 4 inches higher in the tackle, I think he would definitely have went off. Mm-hmm. I think because he was quite low to the ground, I think he probably got the benefit of the doubt. But as Kenny says, if it had been the other way around, I'd have been screaming for a red card. It's one of the ones, if you watch it, and if Sky are showing a game in England and there's a tackle, that usually a Gary Neville or a Jamie Carragher would say, oh, that's a yellow because he's not high enough. But as I say, if it was the other way around, I think I would have been screaming for a red card.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I said. The other thing is as well, it looks really poor because his leg is so straight. The only thing that saves us genuinely is the height that he hits at Amrit. If you see if he's getting put off there, and it's a stupid tackle as well. He doesn't need to do it. If he gets sent off there, what's your thoughts on that one?
Well, see, this is the thing. It was the one, like Davey said, that hasn't really been given the same profile as all the other big decisions in the game yesterday. You know, the penalty, Maida's persistent fouling, and Ralston, and all these other things. That one really sort of went under the radar a bit. From where I was sitting, I didn't really get a clear view of it. At the time, I thought there was nothing in it. I was jumping up and down saying, "Oh, that's never a free kick." So it shows you what I know from the other side of the pitch. But I did have a look at it, and he's a lucky boy, Stevie, in my opinion. I've seen them given, and like Davey said, if that was a Celtic player, we would be jumping up and down. It would be all over the media, and we wouldn't be happy with that decision. So for me, it could have been given, and I don't think we would have had much recourse to any sort of viable defence, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Amrit, stay with you. Asgard red card. Thoughts?
On the Asgard red card, Stevie, I genuinely believe that if we start that game better, I'm not sure that those set of circumstances arise where we're that desperate and chaotic in our play and not organised, where we're making poor decisions. For me, is he trying to, as if he's playing football in the back garden, this flick over the head nonsense, and then trying to get it round the other side, and then the leg up? And somebody said to me, "Oh, he won the ball." Yes, he won the ball, but look at the height of his knee. Look where his studs are. His studs are up. They're facing an opponent. It could have been a lot worse than what it was. He's caught him right high on the thigh. I don't think that we can, if we're balanced and proportionate as Rangers fans, and we take off our blue tinted glasses, then you cannot dispute that is a red card. I just can't see any argument for that being anything other than a red card. And it pains me to say it because it changes the landscape of the game. But it really was. But I think if we start better, I don't think we make these type of poor decisions. I don't think these situations and these events arise in the way that they did. So for me, it's down to the start really more than anything.
Yeah, my look on my face as we started talking about it was because of Asgard's stupidity. He does it all himself. Why he's flicking the ball up like that. It's a clear red card for me, Davey. Absolutely no dubiety about it. It's actually quite nasty. No complaints at all.
Oh, it's a sending off. Asgard reminds me a bit of, remember when we got Nico Cranshaw and he was done? But you could see he had a good first touch. He was this big guy with a really good first touch, but he always wanted too much time in the ball, and he always wanted to try the fancy things when there wasn't room for it. He kind of reminded me of that kind of player in an Old Firm game yesterday. What he was trying to do in that position, flicking it over heads and trying to play keepy uppy, almost, I've got no idea. Wrong time, wrong place. Absolutely no complaints. That is a red card every day of the week. And it's one of the few the referee got right.
Kenny?
Yeah, his red card go. That's pretty much a stone waller. It's a pillar box red card. It's one of them that you look at and you he's nearly snapped the boy in two. You just can't. Doesn't matter if he's not. I've seen a lot of folks say that he's not even looking at the player. He's won the ball. He's trying to play the ball. You can't tackle like that. You can't play football like that nowadays. He's so high. It's not just reckless. That's dangerous. Really dangerous. You're in danger of snapping somebody's leg doing something like that. You know, it's just so high and so dangerous and so stupid. Because Amrit nailed that. Actually, got that spot on. It's like he's as if he's playing football down the park or something. That's what you doing. Get the ball down and give it to a teammate instead of running about like a maniac. And again, it kind of epitomises everything that was kind of wrong with us yesterday. The haphazard slapdash way we went about the game, and yeah, straight red, no question.
Just wanted to say thank you to David Bell for the contribution. £5 is greatly received. Thank you very much. Not needed. Please don't feel like you have to do it under any circumstances. We try and put up as many comments as we can, and I really appreciate it. But it's the amount of people watching, the amount of comments we have. It's difficult, but we do try our best. We'll talk about individuals. I do want to come back to Asgard. I've seen somebody mention him in the same breath as Cantwell there. Todd Cantwell's miles better than Taylor Asgard. Absolutely miles better. Okay, controversial moment for us. Austin Trusty, right on a stroke at half time, kicks Jack Butland in the face. I will have my say last. Amrit, your thoughts?
Well, Stevie, If Asgard's is a red card, if we've accepted that, as the panel has, then absolutely Trustees has to be a red card as well. There's no other resolution to this. There can be no other outcome. He has endangered the well-being of our fellow professional. If you look at it, as I have done many, many times, Butland gathers the ball and there's distance between Trusty and Butland. There's significant distance there. Trusty then moves towards Butland, proactively moves towards him and puts the boot in. There's more than enough time for him not to do that or not to have the momentum. There is no momentum carrying him into Butland. He chooses to go towards Butland. And it's not as if Butland has fallen towards Trusty. It's not like he's fallen towards the boot. The boot's come to him. Butland's gathered the ball. It's in his possession. He has it under control. And that boot's gone straight into his face. It could have... I mean, people say maybe I'm getting dramatic, but I don't care. Maybe I am. But it could have taken an eye out. It could have cut him on the forehead. It could have caused a nasty injury. This whole argument about force, which is Tav came out and said that's what Walsh told him, that it was to do with the force of it. That's just nonsense. I don't think that's applicable. Ultimately, it doesn't matter about force, because force then... I think if you're talking about force, then you're talking about intent. But these things, we've taken intent out of this completely now. Intent plays no part. I don't think Asgard intended to hurt Ralston with that challenge. Not at all. There was no intent there. It was just a poor choice, a poor decision for which he paid the ultimate price. So the same has to apply, surely, to the incident with Trusty. Maybe the intent wasn't there, but it happened. And I don't care if there was no force. It could have been far worse. I think it was a disgraceful tackle or challenge or attempt, and it should have absolutely resulted in a red card, and I don't think anybody can argue that.
Davey?
You're not going to hear me disagree with Amrit on this one. As part of my preparation for the pod, I looked up the laws of the game. It's terrible to say I'm doing a pod in football and I have to look up the laws of the game, but I do. And it talks. I've got a thing here that says what sendings off are, what people should get sent off for, and one of them, and I quote: A tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent or uses excessive force or brutality. Not and, or. So it doesn't need to have excessive force. And I think the best example of it actually was the last time Celtic got a man sent off. If anybody can remember far enough back, because it was an awful long time ago. That's right, Yang at Tynecastle.
High foot.
72 games ago. So his boot brushed the head of a Hearts player. It didn't make any significant contact. He gets sent off. Celtic appealed it. The appeal got turned down. And I'm going to read you why the appeal got turned down. Although the boot did not make significant contact with Alec Cochrane's head, the fact that Yang's foot was raised to head height with studs showing was deemed dangerous play that could endanger an opponent's safety, and this merits a red card under the laws of the game. So, putting your boot into somebody's head endangers their safety. I actually can't think of a more blatant red card than that, and under the laws of the game as they are. It's ridiculous he wasn't sent off. Absolutely scandalous he wasn't sent off. And what we had was officials not enacting the laws of the game the way they should. That's what they're there for, and they didn't do it.
Pretty damning, Davey. Well done, mate. Kenny?
Scandalous decision. Atrocious. Genuinely, what on earth are they all about? Okay? When you look at the explanation given to our captain, where he turns around and says there's not enough force. What? I'd like it, if I'm Patrick Stewart in that meeting tonight, and actually saying to them, well, you explain to me what needs to happen when you kick someone in the head for it to be excessive force. As Amrit says, is it kicking him in the eye? Is it scarring his face? Is it smacking him so hard that you give the guy concussion? I mean, what actually are you talking about? This is the same referee who decided he was sending Mo Diamandi off last season up at Tannadice because, meanwhile, by the way, when the VAR officials are actually telling him there's no brutality, no excessive force, no nothing, and he turns and says, show me the angle where I can see it closely. And he says, I see a slap. There is no slap, but he sees a slap anyway and sends him off for that. because he thinks there's excessive force. I mean, are we honestly to sit here and believe this, Stevie, that is the explanation that our officials yesterday came out with? Because VAR looked at that also yesterday and said, no, the yellow suffices. So Nick Walsh is bad enough here for not calling that when the entire country has watched it. A man kick somebody in the head when he has the ball in his arms for about a second, a full second. And I'm just looking at it and thinking, okay, it'll go to VAR. They'll have to send them off. It's, again, 30 seconds with the VAR officials. No, you're fine. That's fine. Come on. Seriously, guys, look at me and tell me that's not a load of old bollocks. I mean, it's a load of old bollocks, isn't it? And I'm just not having it. And we the four of us on here tonight know fine well we have to bite our tongues slightly. And if we want to say what we really want to say about this, then we get ourselves into a whole host of trouble. But we won't do that. But nobody's ever going to tell me that somebody kicking someone in the head needs to be excessive. I mean, kicking somebody in the head is a red card offence, as far as I'm aware. You can't just go about kicking folk in the head when he's on the ground with a ball. It's nonsense, mate. And I as I say, I find it very, very difficult to turn around and take this seriously anymore. There's just something not right there when that's the explanation that they're handing out to our captain and expecting our team, our board, our fans to believe this bullshit.
It's very difficult to do a podcast like this and talk about this stuff and not come over as being paranoid, ranty, which is why we've talked about Cornelius, which was why we've talked about this one as well as St. Asgard. I think we've been pretty fair in what we've talked about so far. This one for me is a joke. And what makes it even clearer for me is Butland actually takes it in his arm for a full second or two and is down protecting himself. Austin Trusty makes the decision to kick Jack Butland in the head. He actually makes the decision. There's no need to do it. This isn't like it's a close one where he's got it and he's just a wee bit late because it's a ball there to be won. See if it's like that, then fine. Absolutely fine. Austin Trusty makes the decision to kick Jack Butland in the head and he realises immediately, do I want Jack Butland rolling it about a wee bit more and playing up to it? There's a side of me that does, because you probably force a different decision. I want my players to react to it a wee bit more. But at the same time that, I still expect the referee to do their job. I think Davey nailed it. The Yang one is a perfect example. What was interesting after that game is Celtic went absolutely nuclear. And I made this point to Rangers in our meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I made the very point to Patrick Stewart. This is a completely wrong tactic that we've embraced here. And we continue, to provide the SFA with data and try and make friends and try and be their friends. I think that's a load of pish, I'll be quite honest with you. After that, Yang, one team went nuclear, and 70-odd games later, as Davey points out, we've not seen a bid. There was other moments I want to talk about. Obviously, the Ralston penalty is coming, but a lot of things happen that Nick Walsh allows to happen. Maeda fouls and fouls and fouls and fouls and fouls and fouls. Eventually then kicks Dio so high up that he gets a yellow. Should have been off by that point, massively. And Nick Walsh lets it happen. Another thing happens, Nick Walsh, Gassama gets the ball on the left-hand side, goes past Celtic player, puts the ball past Ralston. Ralston blocks him off and intentionally blocks him off. And Nick Walsh shakes his pants and doesn't give it because he knows fine well he have to give Ralston a second yellow. And then there's a penalty. The penalty to me, again, is scandalous. It's so that I know it's not, first of all, it is not necessary to give a yellow card for handball in a box. But when a ball is getting struck towards goal, and Ralston, if you watch it, he does tuck his arms in, but he leads his elbow out and he actually moves down his elbow towards the ball, and that's why it's given. It's a penalty for me. And if people are saying It's not a penalty. Look at Goldson a couple of years ago at Parkhead. I think it was at Ibrox, the 3-3 game. It was a cross that came in, and Goldson actually moves his elbow the exact same way, and it skips his arm and goes out. And that for me, exact same. It's a penalty kick. It's a second yellow. And it should be down to 10. We get the penalty and we score it, so it's the correct decision. But for me, it's the same as the Goldson one a couple of years ago. In that respect, for me, it's a penalty. Boys, does anyone see it differently?
Actually, I was looking at something today, Stevie, similar to Davey. I did a little bit of deep diving into this whole penalty thing. And from my understanding, the rule about 2 years ago has changed around handballs in the box. Apparently, there's something called Article 12. And it all comes down, the crux now is if the referee deems the handball to either be deliberate or accidental. If they deem it to be accidental and they give a penalty, then they do not need to give a yellow card. But if it's deemed deliberate, then they can give a yellow card or a red card. That's the rules of the game, apparently. That's not my opinion. So
It's
I think
deliberate for me, Amrit, because I think when you watch it, he actually puts his elbow down into the ball. It's deliberate for me.
Yeah, so that's the point I'm making. That it depends how.
Yeah. If it hits his shoulder, I think he's trying to block it with his shoulder. That part you're allowed to do it. And I think that's what he's trying to do. But he actually strikes it with his elbow, with his arm. And for me, then that makes it deliberate. It makes it a yellow card. That's my point. I'm well aware of the rule you're saying. You're completely right. But that's why I think it's a second yellow.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it all comes down to the individual interpretation of it. And his defence will be that I deemed it to be accidental, rightly or wrongly. I'm with you. I think there was intent there. So for me, it's not accidental. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He's an experienced professional. He knew what he was doing. He put himself in that position purposely to try and stop a goal. So for me, it's deliberate and it should have resulted in, at the very least, a second yellow card and a sending off or a straight red. But they didn't get it, and that's where we are.
For me, it's one of those things that I look at. Whether it's a yellow card or not is debatable. He should have been off the park before that. For that body check, he should have been off the park for that. Now, I've seen this change in this rule, which I didn't know about, to be fair, till last night. But what I would say, there's been one highlighted last night and today on Twitter, where it was Celtic got a goal, a penalty kick in the last minute at Kilmarnock, I think it was, and the boy strikes the ball, it strikes a shot, it hits a Kilmarnock player, and literally 3 feet away, it strikes a Kilmarnock player's arm, like this. But he's in a natural position like this. It's just that the ball has been hit by one player, ricocheted off his teammate and onto his hand, and he got a yellow card for that.
He didn't. Mayo never got that. No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did, mate. I watched it today.
Yeah? I don't think he was booked for that one.
I'm sure he did, mate. We could be wrong, but I'm sure he did, because I watched it today and they showed you the yellow card.
I'm going to go back and check it. That if I'm wrong, but I don't think he did. I don't think Mayo got booked for that one. But I get your point. Yeah.
Point being that this is now becoming an absolutely ridiculous rule, because to me, this is the thing about the Ralston handball here yesterday. I think it's deliberate. I think he knows what he's doing. But I'll tell you what, the thing about that particular handball is I've probably seen them not given more than they're given, because they're falling down like that. It's almost always deemed as accidental, and you're not going to get that penalty because they're in the motion of falling down. I just find the whole day yesterday, the officiating was appalling. Like, just from start to finish, they got more wrong than right yesterday. That was the issue I have.
Yeah, I've just double checked that Mayo wasn't cautioned for that. I didn't think he was at the time.
Boo.
David?
I must have not. I thought he was as well, Kenny, just as well, because I was going to say the same thing. So I'm so glad I didn't do it now. Actually, you know how I was looking up the rules today? I have heard all this stuff all day today about this. You don't need to book them anymore. The rule was changed and all that stuff. I looked up the IFAB website today, which is the laws of the game website, Law 12, which is the one about foul play. And it doesn't, I can't find it. I can only find one thing in it, and I'll read it to you. Where a player denies the opposing team a goal or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by committing a non-deliberate handball offence and the referee awards a penalty kick, the offender must be cautioned. That's what it says in it. Now I can't find the one that says that it's sometimes yes and sometimes no. That's all it says in the laws that I can see. Unless there's another page somewhere that I couldn't find. And that's non-deliberate. And like you, Stevie, he meant it. Of course he meant. He tried to disguise it, but he just didn't. He's not quite a good enough actor to be able to do it. So he meant it. He dived in such a way he knows he was sticking his elbow and making himself bigger. It was a booking every day of the week. Kenny's right. He shouldn't have been on the park in the first place because he should have been sent off about 5 or 10 minutes before it for that foul on Gassama. He should have walked. It's as simple as that. And I'll go back and say exactly the same as I said about the trusty one. I just want referees to apply the laws of the game and get it right. That's all I want them to do. That's another one he got wrong yesterday. How many's that we've now said? So I know that the Rangers chief executive is talking to Willie Collum tonight, apparently according to Rahman and STV. He's going to have some size of dossier with him. That's just for yesterday. Walsh gets so much wrong, he should not be refereeing big games again. It's as simple as that.
Right, before we go any further, if there's anything else we want to discuss, I want to make one thing clear here because it's very easy to slip into the conspiracies and everything else. Best team won yesterday. As tough as that is, and it's absolutely shite to say it, Celtic were far better than us. And I've got no complaints about that. We're right to discuss the big moments. I think we've been fair. We talk about Cornelius, red card. We talk about Asgard, red card. We talk about Trusty, red card. And we talk about Ralston, red card. I'm sorry if that seems card happy, but it should have been. So they're the 4 big decisions. Now, I'm sure if you watch a Celtic podcast tonight, they'll say Cornelius red, Asgard red. They'll say Trusty, probably not. And they'll say Ralston, probably not. That's fine. We're just trying to call it as well as we can. I think that sums up yesterday, gentlemen. I've got to be honest. But what it does lead us to, before we kind of wrap this up, I think it's important to talk about individuals and to talk about the players we have. And question marks remain over every single player that we signed in the summer. Gassama's probably the one that at the moment is kind of leading the way. Mikey Moore's starting to show things, which is great. Hopefully he'll continue. I think when you look at Max Aarons, you'll look at a guy that's just not good enough, and he doesn't have the heart and the desire that we really need, because we're in a bit of a hole and we need players to dig us out. He doesn't have it. I think you look at Nasajiga, and I think he shit his pants yesterday and clearly doesn't have it. I think you look at John Suter, no contract, sorry John. I think you look at Derek Cornelius, and there might be somebody in there with better players around him. I think you look at Meg Homa, again, young lad, up and down, looked good last couple of games. Yesterday, not sure. You look at Raskin and Diamandi, and you think there's players in there. They definitely need a 6. I think it's 100% they need a 6. They need Connor Barron playing in the middle of them too, so that Dio can be right, Raskin left, whatever way you want to do it. I think up front is completely powder puff. I think Danilo's our best striker, as in terms of 9 and a finisher. I think the chances that he took against Kelly and Hibs show that. I think his all-round game outside the box, I want him to be my 9. I think Chermiti at times at Hibs, I thought he ran about. I thought he gave us a lot. I thought he did quite well. Yesterday, he was absolutely garbage for £8 million. I think we're going to have to wait around a long time for him to be good. Majowski, massively disappointing. Ant-Man, he just looks timid. He looks like a really poor version of Candace. He looks miles away from being ready as such, and we needed him to be ready. Tello Asgard massively let me down yesterday, massively. And even when he didn't, when he was on the pitch, he just didn't look interested. He's another one that looks kind of spooked by the tempo and by the desire, by the heart and stuff required to play here. He looks like a almost like an Italian league player. He's so kind of not laboured, that's not the right way, but he plays it in such a fashion that I struggle with. And my real thing is, it all comes back to recruitment. It all comes back to the summer where Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart oversaw a summer that involved Russell Martin and all these players coming in that are not ready for this football club. All the advice that was given to them by Barry, by the fans, by everybody, it just seems to have been ignored, and they treated it like a project, putting a load of young players together, and it just hasn't worked. Danny Rule is now the lightning point for all this, the lightning rod, and he shouldn't be, because he's going to have to try and get some results out of this. And the honest truth is, we will win some games and we will lose some games, and it's just about winning more than we do, because we've got to try and stick in this until January, and they should be planning for January right now. And I don't understand how we've spent 45 million and progressively got worse. I'll say again, we went from Barisic to Ridvan to Jefty to Mighoma. The decline is right there. We've went from Goldson to the big Dutch centre half who was here last year and scored against Celtic, and his name absolutely escapes me. Davey, quickly tell me. Proper. We went from Proper to now Giga. Again, we've went from John Lundstrom, who nobody thought was really good enough, but we've went from John Lundstrom to Joe Rothwell. We've went from Yanis Hadji to Nadim Bayrami to Telo Asgard. Again, decline is there. We went from Cyril Dessers, who everybody thought was a likeable big guy, banged in some goals for her, but ultimately wasn't good enough. And we've now got Yusuf Chamiti and Bojan Majowski, who are a massive drop-off. The decline all over the pitch is there. And by the way, this is where it's really galling. The 34-year-old captain, who was still here throughout all that decline, who we thought was probably and should have been on his way out a couple of summers ago, is still the best player for Rangers on the pitch yesterday at 34, despite all this and despite 45 million. This is why we're in this position. Ali McCoy said we look like a team of boys. He said recruitment has been scandalous. He looked at Chermiti, and I think his words were, holy moly guacamole, as Ali so elegantly puts it. Kenny, the recruitment has led us here. Kevin Thelwell has led us here. Kevin Thelwell should not be in position. See if this goes really, really south, like on Thursday against Roma and stuff like that. Danny Rule will be the lightning rod. He can't be. This is on Russell Martin. It's on Patrick Stewart. It's on Kevin Thelwell. Russell Martin took that because he was the lightning rod for them too. But just because we got a couple of results, it shouldn't have diverted away from him. And I said this about Niels Koppen. I thought he got a hard time because some of the players he brought in, there's question marks all over the place. Where's Lyle Cameron? Where's Finlay Curtis? Why aren't these boys playing? Is Kevin Thelwell affecting the selection of this team? That's an accusation that keeps getting thrown about. We don't know how true it is. But McCoist is right. Recruitment, we look like a team, scared young boys. And until January comes, and we're looking at January, by the way, as being the big fixer of everything. The guy that's going to be fixing it or directing it all is Kevin Thelwell. And he's the one that's put us in the shit immediately. Kevin Thelwell shouldn't be in a job at Rangers Football Club. And yesterday highlights that again. We are absolutely nowhere near it. And we are going to have to probably endure quite a lot until we somehow dig ourselves out of this. And that's the most scary thing. There's no overnight fix here. Short of getting 4, 5, 6 really good spot-on signings, and do you trust these guys to do it? I don't. Kevin Thelwell needs to leave Rangers Football Club.
He absolutely does. Yesterday is exactly the type of game that shows you what you have. When you're up against historically over the last 10, 15 years or so, the best team in the country, a team of, I don't want to say this, but a team of serial winners. And we turn up with a bunch of project players. And the one experienced player that we bought this season was not getting on that pitch. Meanwhile, Mikey Moore was playing in his position, an 18-year-old boy. Oliver Antman, a winger, was coming on and playing in there as well before Joe Rothwell did. That's the kind of scenario we found ourselves in. The only centre half, the only defender that we have guaranteed to be here next season is a £3.5 million signing from Peterborough that can't get anywhere near our squad at this minute in time for all the loans and the Taverniers and the Souters who are all out of contract. Souter, by the way, was an absolute, and I'm a big fan of John Souter. I've defended him to the hilt. I thought John Souter was an absolute liability yesterday. I thought he was absolutely ragdolled about the place by two boys, and he was just terrible, absolutely terrible, and not what you need to be leading your centre halves. Whether you're playing with two or three of them, he is not the answer. The recruitment, I mean, Asgard, as you say, if you're comparing it with Todd Cantwell, who plays in a similar position, there is no comparison, none whatsoever. And Todd Cantwell didn't cost £3 million either. So yet again, the questions about signing from that particular pool of players in that championship and paying way over the odds for young boys that you're taking a punt on effectively is just not good enough. That's the bottom line for me, that we cannot possibly continue down this path, because Kevin Thelwell has already said at least 2 occasions since in interviews since he's been here that he will continue to use that until we're in a situation where we can look further afield. So he's basically already told us that the English market is kind of where we're enough of that. Because I'm going to be honest right here, right now, and I'll lay it right out on the table for it. I'm not even convinced we're going to finish top 3 this season with this squad of players. And I'm not. I certainly don't think we're going to finish top 2. So Champions League football is out the equation. I'm not convinced we're going to win a Scottish Cup. So we're now looking at Conference League football, and you're prepared to leave that man that would cause that in charge of recruitment for, never mind January, but for next summer as well? No, absolutely not. Heads must roll, mate. And I'm not one of these guys that says this for a click or a like or anything like that. I actually mean this. I am terrified about what this guy might do, because there is no evidence that he gets Rangers or understands what's required.
Amrit, this level of negativity must be absolutely killing your soul. I can only apologise, mate. But
I tender my resignation.
If only you were Kevin Thelwell. Comment there, Thelwell's been here 6 months and has set us back 3 years. I need to ask you about the individual players. I need to ask you about recruitment. I need to ask you about the accusations that we're saying. I need to ask you about Kevin Thelwell.
Stevie, make no mistake, I think that the stark reality, the sobering reality, the disarming reality about this whole thing is that this is not a refurb job that needs done. This is like a complete ground zero, drive a wrecking ball through the building, reduce it to rubble, pour new foundations and build it up again brick by brick. The problem is the bricks that we have aren't any bloody good, and we're stuck with them. And we're going to have to stutter through this season or to January until we invest some more if we do. But what we're doing is we're going to give money potentially to a guy who has already proven that he cannot invest wisely. Now, in any business, in any economic circumstance, in any commercial enterprise, if you've given money to someone in your business to go out and buy assets or supplies or equipment, and they come back with a bag of bloody magic beans and tell you work with that, what are you going to do? You're not going to give them more money in January and say, yeah, go and waste more of my money, please. Go for it. Open checkbook. Andrew Kavanagh is not a daft guy. You cannot accumulate the wealth that guy has by being naive. So he must be aware of the fact that the money he's given to Thelwell has not been invested wisely. That is a fact. That's not an opinion. We can see that. We're reminded of that game after game, week after week. Recruitment is wrong. And the best example, like Kenny said, at the end of the season, we're going to have, well, it's 2 defenders really, Kenny, and I don't mean to pull you up, but Fernandes is one. But the other one is Dujon Sterling, which we've forgotten about. Because one of them can he get in the team and one of them can he stay fit. So what chance have you got? So if you're talking about recruitment, they knew this. This isn't some new revelation that we've all just been made aware of. They knew in the summer when they were recruiting, what players' contracts were coming to an end and where they had to reinforce our personnel, and they've chosen not to. And now what we're saying is we're going to rebuild an entire defence through January and the summer. That's not possible. It's just not possible at all. They've kicked the can down the road, and now we're suffering because of it, because the guys who are there at the moment, who are loanees, do not have Rangers DNA. It's as simple as that. They don't understand what it means to wear the weight of that shirt. It's a responsibility. And we've brought in these guys who are just not up to the job. And the problem is the guy who's been given the authority and the autonomy to make the decisions of who we bring in is also incompetent. And we can't continue to allow this guy to waste money on players that simply cannot cut it at Glasgow Rangers Football Club.
Davey, a lot said, a lot of passion.
Absolutely. Well, my top one isn't going to be much different from anyone else's, but I'll go back to the day Danny Rule got unveiled in his press conference. And Thelwell was sitting, Patrick Stewart was sitting, and Andrew Kavanagh was sitting with him. And Kavanagh and Thelwell made a big play of, we're still in all 4 competitions, there's still everything to play for. What was that, 3 weeks ago or something? We're now out the first one. By Thursday night, if we don't win, and I don't think many people are going to put much money on us beating Roma, we'll be.
It's only Roma, David. Come on, it's fine.
Roma, I know. They're only the second top of the Serie A. So that'll be 2 we're out of. We're 14 points behind in the league. It's only the start of November. There's absolutely... The chances of us winning the title are negligible. Let's put it that way. So we're going to be in November, and in effect, the Scottish Cup's going to be all we've got to play for. In effect, in terms of trophies, which is an absolute scandal. And the reason we're in that position is because of the recruitment of a head coach and the recruitment of a playing staff in the summer that has been, without doubt, the worst summer that I can remember in terms of bringing new people into Rangers Football Club. Absolutely. If there's any videos you could make of how to do something wrong, that would be it. Because we've brought in people who are completely unsuited to a club that is like ours, where everybody, it's a cup final to all your opposition every week, that anything other than second place is a disaster. No, a draw is actually a defeat. All that, they just don't get it. They don't get it. And we've talked about it all. We've talked about it pod after pod. We've got no bad losers. We've got no leaders. We've got no experience where we need it. But most important of anything, we've no quality where we need it. January, we need an absolute miracle to be able to make significant inroads in it. But in January, the priority has to be the spine of the team. It absolutely has to be. We've got to find a centre forward that can score. We've got to find a leader at the back that can organise the defence, and we've got to find a midfield player that can run a football game. If we can just remember when Walter came back and he brought in Davy Weir, Ugo Ehog and Kevin Thompson in January and completely changed the failure of a team into a team that won almost every week. We've got to do something like that. Will Kevin Thelwell be able to do it? Absolutely not. Unless we get rid of him first and foremost, January will just be another disaster, and we'll end up this season looking back in it as probably one of, if not the worst Rangers season in our own personal histories.
Yeah, to sum it up and to round this off, I'll end the podcast before I thank the guys for their time with one simple thought. Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, the focus should never be off them in the running of this football club. They've done this. Patrick Stewart has presided and made so many mistakes now that his time is up. Kevin Thelwell's actions in the summer, which has led us to this performance. By the way, Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart also put Russell Martin in there, which has led us to where we are right now. The amount of money spent and the catalogue of performances that we are seeing is down to Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart's leadership. They're not and should not be employed by Rangers Football Club. My worry about Andrew Kavanagh is the same thing that I said weeks ago. Sometimes you're too deep into something and too entrenched to actually see what's possibly going on around you and is going on around you. And I'm really worried that he is. He talked a lot about They made a big thing at Danny Rowe's press conference about the Chamiti questions about how he's going to be this, how he's going to be that. It's a huge hill to die on, I'm afraid. And with Andrew Kavanagh, as much as I respect him, I think he's a lovely guy. I think his intentions are absolutely correct. I think he's here to do good things for Rangers. I think he has visions. I think he has, ideas and dreams. And I think he's put the wrong people in charge of those. And that's my biggest fear with what's going on. I have zero confidence in Patrick Stewart. Kevin Thelwell, I can't see it being much higher. I said that Patrick Stewart was a red and Kevin Thelwell was a yellow, and then we got hammered in Norway. And yesterday just kind of sums up where everybody else is saying what it is. Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell's time at Rangers Football Club is up. And the problem with that is you then have to remove everybody else that they put in there, like his son, Dan Purdy, everybody else that goes on around it. They're so entrenched that I'm not sure what happens here. Short of having an amazing January, like Davey says. By the way, Januaries are notoriously difficult. Who wants to give up their best players? How do you get those players? And how do you trust Kevin Thelwell to find them? Yeah. It's not been a great podcast because it's been negative, but I hope we've been fair. When we've talked about yesterday's game, just tried to call it as we see it. We didn't want it to be ranty, didn't want it to shout about conspiracies and things like that. I just think the refereeing standards are absolutely crap. And it doesn't only happen to Rangers, it happens to every single team across the league. Yesterday it was pretty glaring. I think we tried to cover that as honestly as we could. I think you've got a podcast here that tries its very best to be level-headed. We're guilty of getting too excited. I get it, because we're trying desperately to grasp onto anything. But I hope that people understand where we're coming from. Amrit, as usual, mate, a shining light in the doom. We appreciate, mate, you coming on.
It's a pleasure, Stevie. Always a pleasure. Great to be part of the team.
Well, yeah. I wish it was a happier team, that's for sure. Davey, spot on contributions tonight, mate. Particularly enjoyed the red card stuff when you were talking about Yang. It's nice to have some facts when we're going into stuff like that, mate.
Yeah, I'd love to say I enjoyed it, but it was more like a kind of hour and a quarter phone call to the Samaritans, wasn't it? But yeah, until next week onwards and upwards, I think is all I can say to that.
Kenny, somebody said to me today, you don't put a monkey into a palace and it becomes a king. The palace becomes a circus. And I thought to myself, fuck's sake, that's Ibrox. And that's exactly how it feels with our football club. And it was an amazing analogy. We were talking about something. And yeah, I'll probably not remember that in a few weeks and I'll be trying to remember it. But and it doesn't really have any context into me saying thanks for coming on tonight, what a great show you had, etc. But I just thought I would say it before we ran out of time.
Your mind is right in there, mate. I don't know what to say to that, but it's a good analogy. I actually quite like it, and it is very like Ibrox, isn't it? But the two boys down below the screen there doing a bit of research and stuff like that. Who'd have thunk it? It's not us, is it? We don't do that. But listen, it is one of those tough shows. It's not nice. And I seen Amrit's face just before we went live, and he was like, "Ooh," because we were all dead serious and getting to go. But these are tough gigs. We've been, as a support, as a fan base, as a podcast, we've gone through far too many of these big games this season in general. Something's got to give. That's what I would say. And when it gives, who knows? But thanks for having me on, Stevie, and thanks, guys. I would say it was enjoyable, but it's a bit cathartic and a bit of a group therapy session. That's about it.
Folks, we will be on Wednesday evening, myself, Kenny, and Chris. And if you thought we were miserable, wait till Chris comes on because he's got quite a bit to say as well. We'll be looking forward to the week. The fallout will continue, and we'll look forward to Roma as well. We'll have a match vlog from Ibrox on Thursday night as well. Kenny, I think you're on with me, are you? Yeah. Yeah, it's Kenny. Obviously delighted. Sorry, I was just getting rid of another one of them in the comments. But yeah, thank you everybody for that's came on tonight, commented, watched with us. Over 4,000 watching on all platforms. What I will say is, I think potentially Danny Rule's got the making of a good head coach for Rangers. I was impressed with how he changed it yesterday, how he managed to help get the team back into it, how he got victories against Kilmarnock and Hibs, and hopefully he'll keep picking up wins because none of this is on him. He inherited this. So Danny Rule, maybe, just maybe, there might be something there. We just don't know with this squad of players. It's going to take a hell of a turnaround, and we've just got to stick in with it. And I don't see any other way out of this, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. There's not a magic wand anywhere to fix this shit show, that's for sure. I'll continue to say it week in, week out. Kevin Fairwell and Patrick Stewart need to leave Rangers Football Club. If that gets tiresome, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I really am, but it will continue to be my message. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde View, Affluent Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you to all our panelists, and thank you to everybody for watching. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. That really helps the show grow. I don't think we're far from 12,000 subs, so really, really appreciate it, and thank you everybody for joining in. The best team won yesterday, and that needs to stop being Rangers' story, because all too often it's not Rangers, and we need to fix that. Rangers Football Club deserve a wee bit better. We as fans deserve better, and the minute we stop believing that, and the minute we stop coming on here and we stop and start accepting performances like yesterday is the day we should all chuck it. So I was brought up with a Rangers team that's a winning Rangers team, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is very far from being good enough. Good night.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde View Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.